Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to introduce the Adventure Project. I've got Canvas open here and it shows describes the project and the rubric. This project is about learning how to process events. So as you do this, focus more on how your events are going to move you from place to place than actually what is on place to each of the places. We need to use event-driven programming to create some simple adventure game that responds to user events such as clicking a sprite and or typing a letter. That's what I want you to focus on. We're going to use the when key pressed or when this sprite clicked event handlers to allow the users to make choices along their way. And the event handlers should use switch backdrop to move to the next level. So you'll have 7 backdrops. You'll use switch backdrop 2 and then go to each of those various backdrops based on what key is typed or what button is pressed. I've laid it out in 3 different levels. This may be confusing, but it's an easy way to demonstrate that we have a bunch of choices. So if we look at this screen right here, this shows the levels that we're going to be designing. When the green flag is clicked, we want to start on a home page. It's kind of our starting place. When either an A or B is typed, we want the program to go to this next level, which has 2 different slides. A would take us to this slide on the left. B would take us to that slide on the right. And then finally, once we're on these, we have different controls. On this particular slide, we'll have 2 buttons that will take us to 2 different slides. On this one, we'll actually use move commands. When we move to the left side of the screen, we'll go here. When we move to the right side of the screen, we'll go there. We'll show how this is done in just a moment. At this point, let's go look at the code of how to do this. This is very complicated code. It's important that you have your own map like this or storyboard to help you figure out what you're responding to. So for starters, we'll look at the home page and see how we can respond to the A and B key presses. Starting with, I'm going to go to the stage and show that the stage has, in my case, 8 backdrops. 7 are the ones we're interested in for this assignment. And the last one is the overview slide you were just looking at. So you can see each of these is a different color. And that's as adventurous as this adventure is, going to slides of different colors, and that's fine. I imagine your adventure will be much more interesting to you. There's no code on the backdrop. Most of the code is with the cat, who is our main character, and our narrator. The cat tells us what to do. If you need me to press a key, you need to have someone on the screen tell me what keys are legal to press, so I'll know. Let's first, when the green flag is clipped, we're going to switch the backdrop to home. So when green flag was an event, and switch backdrop is under the looks command, just under the costume command. So switch backdrop to, when you pull that out, it lists all of your backdrops. This is a good reason to have backdrop names that make sense to you, so you can pick the right one. You can rename a backdrop. We'll do that very quickly by going to the backdrop, clicking on the backdrop, and then typing in the costume name here, the name that you want. We're not going to do that. I've named them all what I want to name them to already. Okay. How do we have when the backdrop switches to home, our cat goes to a specific location and tells us to type either A or B to get to the next level. I'm going to click the green flag. We'll see that happen. The cat asks us to type A or B. And so that's all the cat's doing at this point except it's going to now just wait. And it's got a little handler right here. When A key pressed, switch backdrop to A. So that's the event handler for the A key. If the A key is pressed, we want to switch backdrop to A. And then we'll say click a button for 2 seconds. I'm going to type A. And, well, matter of fact, that's all you have to do to change a backdrop. As far as the cat is concerned, I'm going to type A. You won't see that, but it'll happen. And now when I go to this level, I have 2 buttons that appeared, pick me on the left and no pick me on the right. It's obvious by their names that I'm supposed to pick one of them. So the cat doesn't have to tell me to click a button, but in my case, the cat actually did. So that's how you get a letter key to take you to a new slide or a new level. Simply, when a key is pressed, switch backdrop to whatever. Now let's go to the buttons. The buttons code, pretty simple, but there's a lot of it, and we'll talk about all of it. When the green flag is clicked, it goes to a specific location. This should be very common to you now. And in this case, it hides because if you'll remember, on the home screen, or when I clicked the green flag, those buttons were not showing. Only after I typed the A key did those buttons appear. So let's see how that happened. The button waited until the backdrop switched to backdrop A. This button knows that it lives on backdrop A and only backdrop A. So at that point it shows the show command down here at the bottom of the looks command. And you saw that grow and shrink a little bit. I'll make it do that again. There we go. That just repeated 10 times, change the size a little bit, and change the size back down a little bit. Some of you did that with your letters. So when the backdrop switches, it does its little animation to draw attention to itself. And that got the button set up. Now the button code that happens when it's clicked is down here. It says when this sprite is clicked, switch backdrop to backdrop A1. That's yet another one of the backdrops that we have. If I click that, it goes to that other backdrop. Notice that it disappeared. Going back, it disappeared because when the backdrop switched to A1, this button called the hide command. And matter of fact, any backdrop this button is not on needs to call the hide command. Any backdrop that it is on needs to call the show command. So all of the buttons will have very similar code. You'll have to write a handler for each scene. Most of the handlers will just be to hide. Button 2, very similar. Not much to say there. It's just a different, it shows on the same drop. It goes to backdrop 2 and then hides if we go to backdrop A1, backdrop A2, backdrop A1. So you have to rearrange things a little bit as you do that. So we got to level 2A. I can click that one and show that it goes to level 3, A2, and there's the cat at the end. Let's start over and talk about, so we've talked about how to use letters to get you there, and we've talked about how to click buttons to get you there. I'm going to do one last thing. This is more complicated than you need to do, but a lot of people like to use arrow keys to run around on a screen. This code is all in the cat's code, and it starts when the B key is pressed. When we let's start again. The cat asks us to type A or B. So if I type B, again, you can't see me doing that, just have to trust. We go to this new level 2B slide, and the cat gave us a short message use arrow keys to navigate to a color for 2 seconds. So it gave us some instructions. And now here's how we use the arrow keys. We could use when left arrow key pressed, when down arrow key pressed, any of those to do this. This responds a little bit better. You don't have to really understand how it's working, but I will show you quickly. We're in a forever loop. We're always looking to see if the key is pressed. Anytime the up arrow key is pressed, I change Y by 10. I'm going to press the up arrow key, and there goes the cat. You saw it went up repeatedly. The down arrow key brings it back down, changing Y by -10. The right arrow key actually points me the other direction and moves 10 to the right. The left arrow key points me to the left and moves 10 to the left. We're using rotation style left-right, a very good one for these kind of games. So the up and down change Y by a positive or negative number. The left and the right change X by a positive or negative number and point in the correct direction. They also do a little next costume in there so that you can see it kind of look like it's walking. Doesn't make sense to walk if we're going up and down. A flying action would be more appropriate. Okay, the last thing that happens here is in this adventure we're supposed to advance until we're touching something, or in this case a color. So we have a little if block in here that says if touching the color red. The way that you set a color, by the way, is to use the picker tool down at the bottom of the palette and zoom in where you can see the color you want to touch and click it. But don't try to type in the hue, saturation, and brightness. It's easier and safer to use the picker tool. By the way, if you're off by one number, it won't work. So use the picker tool to get there. If I'm touching color, switch backdrop to B1 and stop this script. This disables the arrow keys because we only want them available on this script. You see that's running right now. We have a similar chunk of code for touching the green color. We could have just as easily asked if we're touching another sprite, like a key or something. If you touch the key, then you go through the door. Those kind of things are common in adventure games. All right, I will show you that running. I will jump over till my whisker first touches that red, and it jumped me to the new level. You can see that the cat's centered now and can't move, and that happened because this script stopped. Similar thing would have happened if I would have touched color green. Okay, I think that's all of the relevant code. I have one more button, the home button. Very simple. It's showing all the time. When it's clicked, it goes back to home. It also responds to the H key. When the H key is pressed, which I'll do, it goes back to the home slide and everything starts over. Similarly, could have got that by clicking the home button, and that works from any slide. The home's already there. You don't have to have a home button, but it's kind of nice to be able to back up to get around and do that. So, show you a big full screen. Lastly, we hit the green flag. It takes us to this, tells us we can type an A or a B. I type A. I have two choices. I click one of them. I've made it to level 3. I go back home. I type A again. This time I pick the right button, and now I'm on the different slide. Again, go home. This time I'm going to type B and use the arrow keys to navigate left. I made it to level 3. Home, B, arrow keys to navigate right. And I've made it to that last one. I've made it to 7 different slides, and I had 2 choices on 3 different slides. The home slide had the A and the B choices, and the A slide had the 2 buttons, and the B slide, which I'll jump to right now, had the 2 color spots. There we go.